into that stain, no stain thing, and I got some samples here that I had glued on, or wetted out some epoxy on top of the oil-based stain, and then I had another one on just plain plywood. I'll go along with what System 3 has to say in their handy-dandy little book that test your stain. This oil stain is fine for my rails, and epoxy on the rail will give it some protection, but it's not going to be a structural thing. With the tape here where I've got the, okay, it just peels right up. You can get a knife blade under it and just lift it right up. It's the oils in the, well, the oil in the oil-based paint seems to put like a waxy film, I might imagine, on the surface of the plywood, and it just lifts up, and you can see where the it pulls the stain up with it too. And on the undone stuff here, you really got to work. Ow! Cut myself. You really got to work to get it up, and it doesn't. And when it does come up, it takes a little bit of wood surface fibers with it too. I'm going to do a whole, I think, a whole video on something like this, epoxying things together, stained, unstained, and I need to get a hold of some water-based stain to see how that works with epoxies. So if you're going to do a stained boat, I really wouldn't advise it. Maybe if you were going to glass the outside, like on this hull, you might have stained the inside, but you would have had to have masked off at least 1.5 inches on either side of the edges of the panels for a secure bond between the glass and the fillet material and the wood. The outside, if you're going to glass it and tape the outside seams, you wouldn't stain that anyway, so that might work. But structural wise, if you have any trying to put in bulkheads or anything like that, or seats or panels on a plywood that's been stained, I wouldn't guarantee the stiff jolt is not going to pop it loose. So negatory on the staining underneath epoxy. So we'll get into that later on after I finish this boat. I got some little tricky stuff, and you'll notice it's like about 70 degrees outside. I was out on my motorcycle the last couple of days. Actually, it's not a motorcycle, it's a Yamaha T-Max Maxi scooter, and I just love that thing. So boat building may slow down a bit with this good weather here. So let me get on with putting these panels together. Okay, we're going to get into putting these side panels on. I've got all of them, some of them I mismarked, and I did the outside as opposed to epoxy in the inside, so you can see I got a nice reflective, nice thick coat of epoxy on here, so any condensation is going to get in, it's not going to hurt the wood. I would advise probably getting, depending on where you live, some of those desiccant things that they put in boats to suck moisture up, or else if you have it in covered storage, take the hatches off and just store them someplace, you're not going to lose them, but so air can circulate in and you won't get any moisture contamination. Okay, I've already got these center panels on this one with these for the pass-through for your feet. With these hatch panels, they kind of set up the base for everything, that and the aft pocket footrest area that I've got it's already epoxied in place. This one has had a nice layer of Gel Magic along the top and lightly clamped, and then while it was held in place to make sure it's going to stay in place, I took a little bit of Gel Magic and ran it along the inside seam here to kind of seal off the edges, but also to hold this thing in place. So now I'm going to mix up some Gel Magic and come in here and clamp it in place, and I'm going to get to use my handy dandy new little Max 23 gauge pin nailer I picked up today. I love this thing. This is really nice. So I'll use that as instead of clamps to see how it works, and let me go get some Gel Magic mixed up and we'll come back and start assembling this thing. Along this section up in here, because this has got a slight angle, you don't need to put Gel Magic all the way down, but a nice thick coat. Kind of leave a little bit of a ridge there. And let it squeeze in. And try not to dribble. This all gets taped over and glassed along this section. Okay. Bring in your panel. Sure. Lined up, and then look down on the line that we put in when we had these in place to locate how much angle out it is, and I've got that in there. I'm going to take my glove off, hold you. There. No clamps, and I don't have to worry about the Gel Magic getting squeezed out or the epoxy because it's a gap filling. So let me turn my glove back on and smooth it out now. So it's always nice to come back with your, no, I had it right, with your gloves and or something, you know, cloth or something. I find the gloves work just as well for until you get them all gummy. Come in and just smooth out any little bits that want to come up. And I've got a nice, really nice bead out on the inside. I'm going to take my finger. Ah, beautiful. Turn into a nice smooth fillet. When we get done here, I'm going to, when I get all the panels in place on their trial, you know, glued up and set in, I'm going to come along with the tube of Gel Magic with the nozzle on the end, and I'm going to put a bead, a light bead I made jump stitch along the way to just give it some strength on the outside to hold it in place, and then I'll come along like we did with the center or the dagger board trunk, and then put in a nice big layer of easy fillet, wood filled epoxy for my fillet along the seams. The only places that will be glass will be along the long top edges of the seats, and I'll probably put in a layer of glass on these vertical, on the corners, on the hatches here, and then where the footwell is. Everything else will just get fillets, but we'll get into that when we come to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do everything, do all the rest of these things, and then we'll come back.